Hey, everybody. Let's see. We're actually on time. Well, I'm actually on time today. I didn't have anybody to chat with beforehand. So, hey, Brooke. Hey, Swifty. Um, so if you didn't catch us last week, and no, it's not you. There's other people. I can see the count. I think everybody's just coming in to say hello. Thanks, Natalie. Um, it's just me today. I was trying to talk Marianne and them into possibly, using the phone, but we know then that Marianne can't touch the phone. So Marianne is getting the carpet put into her new place today. So, I said, well, I can try and wing it by myself here. I don't know what questions y'all might have for me or things that I know Marianne would say because they've either been asked before or I just know her. I've listened to her talk for many, many years. So, or if you have other questions you want to ask, feel free to ask. I hope everybody had good holidays. Mine were nice and quiet. So, and that's the first time in a long time that I got to have 2 days off together. That wasn't work related on a trip. So it was kind of nice. Um, but yeah, hopefully everybody had some good holidays. If you have questions that's more related to what I do, feel free to ask, or we'll do those today. Um, my experience with the aliens. So the only one that I'm aware of, and they made it pretty hard to ignore. Not this year, it was last year. Everything runs together. Um, was in Tucson. Was in a different part of Tucson for that gem show, and, it was the first time I realized, there was a bad part of town, not necessarily crime, but that shady area where, when it got dark, who's walking around with guns? Um, and it wasn't necessarily, a ghetto area, just the outskirts, and it looked like they're all kind of like of law. You call one another and take care of it. You don't call the cops. Um, at the same time, though, it was on the outskirts of town, up near the mountains. Hardly any cell phone reception. If anybody remembers that live, like it was kind of wonky because the tower was way up on the mountain, and I was kind of directly underneath of it. Thanks. Love my shirt. It's Princess Bride, favorite movie ever. Didn't think anything of it. Was not having a hard time there whatsoever. Come back, and the first night back, hard time sleeping, blamed it on late flight in. We had trouble getting off the plane because the little accordion hallway at the airport was broken. It's like 12:30 in the morning. We're stuck on this plane, so I just figured aggravation. No big deal. And then another night, and then another night, and then another night. And I'm like, what in the hell? Why can't I feel rested? Why can't I feel sleep? Um, and then just the one morning, middle of the night, I should say, dark 30. Um, I never sleep on my back. I can't sleep on my back because I feel like I'm falling. I'm a side sleeper. And that feeling of falling. Well, I know, scientifically that's like brain waves and patterns in the body relaxing faster than, your brain's falling asleep. At first did not think anything of it, but startled awake. But this really loud, god awful, like metal wrenching and tearing sound. And my first thought was, hey, Chris, um, that the granary that was right across the street from the house was collapsing. Um, and my first thought was to hurry up and look out the window because there is a part of this granary that's really, really, really tall for the grain, elevator to go into silos. And I'm like, is that thing tall enough and long enough that if this building is collapsing and if it's falling this way, is it coming at the house? Get up, look out the window. nothing's happening, stillness, and the sound just stopped. And I'm like, oh, that tinnitus really getting bad. Didn't think anything of it. And it wasn't until like a week later that the light bulb went off above my head and was like, hey, let's ask Marianne about this. And she's like, I've been waiting for you to ask. She's like, they followed you home. I'm like, seriously? Really? They had nobody else more interesting to come bug? So, yeah, Marianne gave me one of those little stones, one of the last few that she has in the water, and had to follow the directions for it and seemed to take care of it. Apparently, they have not followed me here. My sleeping problems is work and stress related now. It's not anything alien. But that's really my only experience in with anything alien. I didn't actually see them. I didn't have any communication. It was just more of a, if they had been doing anything and they plopped me down, that was enough to wake me up and hear that sound. Now, if that were the way, I wish they would just come get me off this planet and take me somewhere more fun. Hey, Pam, I'll let Marianne know. I don't know if Marianne and Ted are actually kind of watching while their carpet's being laid. So hopefully, Marianne, people love your show still. We're hoping at some point maybe we can come up with something. I shouldn't say we, me, figuring out how we can do some more fun things, record things. Karen, hey, Melissa, how do I get involved in Development Circle? Interested in getting involved, but never done this before. Is there a beginning one? So the Development Circle, here's the fun thing. It is for all levels, beginning to those that are experienced readers, but they want to keep the practice, the experience going. Psychic ability for a lot of people is like a muscle. So the more you use it, the stronger it gets, and you maintain it. You always hear when people are like, I used to do all this stuff as a kid and I shut it down and now I'm having a hard time getting it going. So Development Circle, first and third Tuesdays of the month, unless there's a holiday involved, starts at 7 and goes till 8:30. So if you're local, just show up about 6:45, pay your $5 cash to Jim, and you're in Circle. That's all you got to do. We used to have it available on Zoom for other people to join in and watch, but it was getting a little challenging for interactive psychic games, if you will, practices. So we've been kind of brainstorming on if we should do a Development Circle that is like Zoom only for those that maybe can't come to the Tuesdays due to work, or you're just out of state and you're not driving 8 hours for an hour and a half circle. I understand that. So we're kind of kicking around a possible Development Circle that's Zoom only, just to help take care of that. Hey, Denise. Here you go. So Julie's one of our regulars. So come out and join in. And I'm sure Julie will help get you situated. Chris comes to Circle too. And it's a lot of fun. There's no judgment. There's no certain level that you have to be at. No just come, become and be willing to, do the practice, do the meditations and help. That's how you're going to grow, is when Jim says, okay, everybody split up and this is what I want you to focus on, to concentrate on, be willing to try and do it. Don't automatically go, well, I can't do that. I do know that Jim does these exercises purposefully different every single time, so it's not boring and repetitive, but also with the understanding that not everybody is the same in the way that your ability is going to work is going to be different possibly for you than for me. So if I'm a clairaudient, maybe you are a touch person and you need to hold things. You need to do things like psychometry. So each time is different to help you figure out what is your more strongest. And then if you want to develop more on those other exercises, you can put that effort and see like, I'm claircognizant. That's fine, but I want to work more on this. So it's different each time on purpose. Can I explain a bit about stones and the vibrations? Keep them in pocket on jewelry, meditate with them. So that's a really, really big topic and would take more than the hour that we have. But A quick and dirty answer, stones are going to work best when they're within about 3 feet of you. So if you figure they've got an energetic field that is measurable in science, we have an energetic field that is measurable by science. When they're interacting, crossing over, now you're getting the benefit. So the closer, the better. Certain stones that are said to help with pain, arthritis, depending on the stone, some have to touch the skin, others do not. So that's where you have to kind of dig a little deeper. Like blue lace agate is one that needs to touch. And I do believe amber is another one that has to be on you rather than sitting on the table next to you. But keeping that in mind, I know a lot of ladies, right? They throw their stones in their purse and then their purse is sitting on the kitchen table and they're sitting over in the living room. You are 20 feet away. So that rock being about yay big isn't really going to do much unless that rock was 10 feet around, sitting in the middle of your living room. It's not really helping you that a whole lot. So when people are asking about stones for restful sleep, peaceful sleep, insomnia, that's why you'll hear us say, just leave it on your bed frame or on the table next to your bed or stuff it between the mattresses because it's always going to be there. You don't have to remember to put it there. Let's see. That's right, Chris. So here's the fun thing about circle. You learn a lot as you're practicing. You learn a lot of stuff. So just come to circle. Anybody else that's local, come to circle. Would love to do a Zoom group. So yeah, I'll have to pick that conversation back up with Jim. Jim and I just over the holiday, and Jim is the one who leads the circle. We've been like ships crossing in the night and actually, planning things out. So I'll have to corner him up, even if it's with text. And be like, hey, let's finish hashing this out. We've been talking about this for a while. Let's get it off the list of things to do. Can evil spirits be trapped in crystals? I have yet to find one. I say no. And here's the deal, right? Crystals come out of the earth that we're all standing on. Have you heard of a bunch of spirits being trapped inside the earth? Trapped? I mean, there is the Christian whole thing of like hell is down inside. And then you also have the belief that hell is just the farther away you get from God. And it's not a physical place. It's more of a mental, religious, spiritual place. I do not believe that you're trapping anything evil inside of a crystal. Can it be a holding place until it is taken care of? Sure. Have I used a stone to pull something out of somebody? Sure. Do I believe it's still trapped there forever? No. In my belief and working system, anything of the earth, the stones, ground powder, dirt, Mother Nature recycles, right? She brings new out of waste, out of dirt, out of compost. So if I am putting something in that crystal that I am pulling, that I can't just transmute myself, my intention, my belief, and my understanding in working with Pachamama, Mother Earth, is that she is over time going to change that off vibration, and let's not necessarily always call it negative. Just because it doesn't feel good to me doesn't mean it's negative. It just doesn't feel right to me. That she's over time going to make it something either neutral that can grow something else, or going to turn it into a new positive thing. Somewhere where plants are going to grow, somewhere or that stone over time, if it's dug up, is now something a little kid really, really likes, makes them feel good, and they're going to take it home. And maybe that's the stone that they're keeping in their pocket that's making them feel good. Belongs in somebody's garden that they dig up, and they're making a new rock garden. So I don't believe anything is ever trapped forever. Can be a placeholder as things are changing and taking on. There's my short story, my short answer. Let's see. Denise, we had a house fire in November. During the year prior, at least 3 times. I'd be napping upstairs, would awaken seeing white smoke. I would sit up, look around the room, and it was gone. I was sure by the 3rd time it happened, I was awake. But, I would say it could have been. And depending on how far out that was, it could have been. Um, I think a lot of times when things like this are happening, I like to think that your subconscious, your higher being is kind of going like something's not quite right. Here's something that could happen. It's potentially dangerous. I don't know the circumstances of your fire, why it happened. If it was some wiring, if it was, a candle left untended, insert random fire cause here. That maybe your subconscious was like, we need to address this. Otherwise, this is going to happen. So it could have been. So, if you are somebody that picks up those kind of things often, and maybe it doesn't have to be as scary as an actual house fire, listen, if you're kind of feeling like, I need to go get those tires checked, do it. Get your little air pressure gauge out there, go check it out, especially in this type of weather. You need all the traction you can get. Just be mindful of your everyday things. What is my all-time favorite crystal? I've got a couple. Funny enough, and they're purple. I love chaurite and I love tanzanite. And then blue kyanite. And way over there, you can see the top of it over the chair, is my healing mesa. And my Pachamama stone is a big, thick, I call it like a mini log of blue kyanite. That one I actually work with the most. Kyanite is very calming, especially blue, and helps realign the energy centers, kind of bringing you back to balance. And it's just something that you have to do by holding it. You don't have to meditate about it. You don't have to, try to make this happen. It just happens. And most people, when I had my mesa at the store, people, I would kind of wander and watch, or, watch people wander over there. And those that would need it would kind of break that unwritten rule. Like if you've got a line of bookcases and you can see that we're working in the back and they would see that table, they would always find a way to kind of get past those barriers and just be standing and looking at it. And I think out of like 9 out of 10 times, everybody would pick up that kyanite and be like, I really like that. And then, can I buy it? I'm like, no, you can't. That's mine. That belongs to this. I can show you where you can get your own piece. There was one time somebody picked up the shell, and after doing the healing work, I could see why they needed that water, energy and healing. But, so blue kyanites, but chaurite and tanzanite, they are stones that help with psychic ability, intuition. I like the way they feel, and I like the purple, especially on the chaurite. Because most of it, I think all of it still was out of Russia, that Russia area. So is seraphonite. And they're very similar. Seraphonite is green, chaurite is purple. It has like this silvery flecks through it. And sometimes it'll look like angel wings. And it happens more in seraphonite, hence the name. But it's a real nice stone to kind of just stare and get lost into. Can I tell you more about Pachamama? So that is Mother Earth in the Peruvian tradition that I practice. There's a lot of workings you can do with her. There's like subs of Pachamama. You have Pachamama as a whole, the whole planet. And then you have almost like little mini Pachamamas of like the land that your house sits on, the land that your business might sit on. So while you can talk with and work with the planet as a whole, when I was trying to sell my house and get out, and, that was a whole fun story. I'm sure those that have been hanging in there for a while know that years long predicament. Doing work with the being that inhabited the land that the house sat on. And we had a lot of conversations and a lot of wine sharing. And the land needed somebody that was going to come in and love it as much as I do. And hence that's Nikki, who is living there now. And she's almost more of a wild frontier woman than I was. I did the flowers and the planting of the things and taking care of all of that. She is somebody who would do the same thing, but she's more of like the farming of, vegetables, and she's got chickens, and, she's doing the land in a completely different way, and the land is happy about that. that house was right across the street from a train wreck, so there was some trauma there. Um, so having to help that bigger area of land feel safe, feel healed, and bring somebody in that's going to keep like a healing work that's going on, and to keep putting that out there. But Pachamama, she actually resonates in you would most people would think with that root chakra area, but it's actually like your umbilical cord, your belly button area, and it's your tailbone, the back, that actually goes in with the water. So, those of us that are more used to your regular seven chakras of the East traditions, there's only a few in Peruvian shamanism, and they work different. There's not necessarily the wheels like what you think of. They're more of like valves, and working with them and being able to open them and release things from the body, and healing them and putting them back in. But the mesa that I have, it's way over there, those poles and feathers. There are certain spots and certain representations. And at the south end is Earth, is Pachamama. So that's where that blue kyanite piece sits. And that's where, she is recognized. Anybody that's Wiccan and knows those calling of the elements in the order that they go in, and it changes a little bit. For the Peruvian mesa, you start at your south, and that is your earth. You go to your west, that is water, and all of those water beings. North is your air. Your east is fire. Your center is Koichi, the snake that kind of inhabits everything and moves everything. And then you have, you call him Viracocha, who is above. And you would go, in that order, connecting everything and bringing it down and making that connection. So similar if you're used to working like calling a circle for certain traditions, but it's not meant that way. It's actually multidimensional, and you work it in all directions, and you can work it in the opposite depending on the healing that you're doing. So there's no, like, you can only go one way. It depends on who needs the healing and in what section. What benefits do labradorite give? And if anybody is not familiar with labradorite, it's a very flashy stone. I'm trying to think if I've got a piece here with me. I don't think I do. But labradorite is one that is good for helping with psychic protection. Let's see. Do I have my book here? I do, so I can show you a picture of it. Never mind this is one of my favorite books. Judy Hall does a wonderful job that she gives you pictures of your stones. So if you're sitting at home and you're like, I don't remember what this is, she gives you the picture of it and then the properties. And it will break it down for you if it needs to be, so all your metaphysical and then physical in there. And like there's a gold labradorite, so she shows you what that looks like. So if you see these, this is a really, really good book. But it helps calm ultraactive mind, helps through change. It's a pretty one. I like looking for it. I don't work with it very often unless a client, like their subconscious is like, this is the stone. I don't question it. I'll pick it up. I'll put it where I need to. A lot of times you can go back and look at it like, oh, that's why. So like calms an overactive mind. So if you're somebody that you're an overthinker, maybe that one's going to help you. Strengthens the faith in self, the trust in the universe, removes other people's projections, including thought forms that have hooked into the aura. So labradorite, that's the short to answer out of all of that. So Crystal Bible, we do carry it, but I'm sure you can find it in other places. It's one of my favorite books to reference for people. Hey, Rosie. Yes, Swifty, I've got one on my desk. And here's the deal. There's 1, 2, and 3. There are different stones in every volume. It's not a repeat. 1 and 3 are going to have your more recognizable stones, the stones you're going to find more often. There's a handful in 2 that you can get pretty easily. Most of book 2, I have not seen these even when I'm walking around in Tucson. I will purposely kind of go through and I'm like, what do I hope to find this time? And we'll search and nope. Book 2 is kind of like the collectors, the ones that just have to have that one piece sitting in their collection for whatever reason. Karen says, I have a bad habit of leaving my stones in my pants pocket, then off to the wash. No, you didn't ruin them. But the only way you can ruin them is if they're water dissolvable. You may not have that piece anymore when it's done going through the wash. That's about the only way you can ruin them. Depending on if they fall out, if they're hitting the agitator, you might ruin your finish, the polishing, but it doesn't ruin the stone. It's not a case of that stone can no longer do its properties. You think about it, that stone came out of the ground where Pachamama was cramping and mushing and heating and retching. Do you think the washing machine's going to ruin it compared to what Mother Nature put it through? No. You have book 2. Book 2 is still a fun book. Those are just going to be some of the harder to find ones. I want to say, I think book 2 has like marble and some of the stones that you might find kicking around in lakes and stuff. So it's going to be, but it's only a handful. Most of book 2 is a lot of really hard to find. Hey, Aries. Today would normally be ghosts and stuff, but Marianne is actually getting her carpet laid today. So if you still have questions about ghosts, we can still answer that for other people. And you as well. Let's see. Yeah, you put your desert rose in the ocean water. So desert rose is actually in the salt family. You don't really need to cleanse it. It's kind of self-cleansing, but yeah, it's never going to look the same again. Brooke, yes, you don't have to know all the, just know where to look. Yes. So, since Marianne's not here, here is just a handful of personal library of what I research and look through. That's not even the books that are in the room. So I read a lot. I study a lot. That's why sometimes I'm like, I know I've read that. Where did I see that? It's because I have all of this. And this is what's left after I downsized to move from the house to here. So never wrong just to have useful materials around you. I think a lot of people feel in this industry that you have to know everything. You have to study, know it, memorize it, and never lose it. It's not the case. Be willing to look up, be willing to say, I'm not sure, I don't know, let me find out, or I know who can answer that for you. Don't wing it. Let's see. Is that a Frankenfurter on your shirt? On mine, no, it is actually the Lover's Tarot card, but done in The Princess Bride. So, Andre the Giant. Let's see. I do have, somebody asked a couple of weeks ago when Marianne was at the store, if we were going to do a podcast about the old house, the one that I've briefly just mentioned. There was a lot of stories in that house, and I'm sure there were more stories that I did not pay attention to. So I think one of the funniest things thinking about it now. So ultimately there ended up being an older gentleman, like in his 50s, who didn't like women hanging out in the house. Yay me, right? I got the one. And I was waking up with like scratches and stuff, but I'm like, I'm looking to move. Maybe I did it to myself, brushing it off. This house was originally from 1800 to 1850s. And two of the upstairs bedroom doors were still the original doors with the big locks that the skeleton keys would go into. And they would close kind of tight and stick. So when you opened them, you would hear those locks, that metal brushing against one another. And night that I'm in the shower. I'm the only one there. My son was off in another state visiting his dad, and the separation had happened. Just me and the cat. I hear these doors opening and closing, opening and closing. And my gut reaction was, get the fuck out of my house. Knock it off. I'm like, great. I just let whoever, if it's a real person, know where I'm at. The door stopped, but that was my reaction, which is why I kind of laugh. Not really scared of a whole lot. And I'll yell at them, like, knock it off. We try to go to sleep later on that night, and it would sound like church bells going off in the room. And my reaction was to kind of like sit up and be like, knock it off. Go back to sleep. It was when things were being messed with in the house. The little screw cages coming off the dog kennel. Those screws were never found. Marianne, when she cleared the house, the guy admitted, like, he tossed them out in the yard. Never to be seen again. I had to zip tie that crate back together. Now, mind you, that little dog, the little white schnauzer that I had, he was an escape artist, but there's no way he was unscrewing those pieces that were on the outside of his cage from the inside. He's good, but not that good. And my son's like, I didn't do it. And I'm like, I know you didn't do it, buddy. Like, don't worry. Let's see. Are there going to be any more book groups? We have not really talked about that, decided that yet. We got through what was this year, getting through the holidays, getting through Marianne's move. So if there would be one, it's probably going to be February, March, because then there's the weather. So if we do, I think Marianne's going to lean more towards an online version. And will probably be February, March. Let her get the move taken care of. Make sure Ted's doing well. Take a couple things off her plate before we worry about a book club. I always feel looking up is best because answers change and fluctuate depending on the perspective, situation, and client. So that's one thing I really like about the tradition that I work with. You have a set of guidelines, and this is probably what's going to be the case, but it's not set in stone. So, if you need to do something slightly different, if you need to switch out the tool that you're using, by all means do it, because that's what you need to do for your client. We are not all even chemically the same. That's why Tylenol works for you, but Aleve works for me. Same thing in energy healing. And that's why I like this tradition. My house would be an amazing podcast. You know what? I need to sit down and kind of remember all the things that happened and kind of put them in an order. Though when Marianne came out and cleared it, I remember the gentleman's last name was Bates, and he made a joke about, Bates Motel and like harming women. And sure enough, I went and looked up at the cemetery where he said he was buried, and he was there. He was right outside of town. So yeah, I just need to sit down and put it in an order, a good storytelling order. But there were fun things that happened with garden gnomes, all sorts of stuff. And it became more apparent to me when I couldn't be like, those darn kids, that darn, now ex-husband, I kept brushing off. Because there were other people in the house, had to be them, not a big deal. So when I was by myself, then I'm like, oh, yeah, the cat didn't do that. Yeah. So, and here's the deal. I think now it's easier to tell your stories and not be worried about people thinking you're crazy. You don't have to worry about like losing your job now because you told this crazy story. My mom's house was actually even worse than mine. Mine was annoying. Hers would actually kind of scare me a couple times to the point where I would be the first one home and would sit outside and be like, I really don't want to deal with this. I know I don't want to deal with this, but would go it anyway. And if you've ever felt like the all of darkness rush you, like it would do that. Knowing it was going to happen, knew it would startle me, pissed me off because I knew it was going to do it, but was just still sit there and like, I don't have the energy for you today. And you read these other stories about how other houses, like, it sounds like marching band, and literally her house did. It sounded like a marching band going through at night. The dog is barking at it. I'm coming in from everybody else is in bed. I'm coming in from the closing shift at Ames, those who remember Ames, and just sitting in the room going, "Mm-mm, nope, you're staying on that side of the door. I'm in here. I am done for the day. I'm not dealing with you. I don't have the energy for you right now. Just you're out there. I'm in here. We're done." And would ask people in the morning, like, "Didn't you hear all of that? Didn't you hear the dog barking?" And nope. 5 other people in the house, nobody hears a thing. Okay, just is what it is. um, Ames, right? Ames. Evil Land over on Twitch. You worked at the same Ames that I did, just we were there at different times. The one in Oberlin. It is now like a little strip mall of stores, but that Pizza Hut's still there. Um, I felt that before. I didn't know how to describe it. Yeah, yeah. It like if you could take darkness and just move it all at once, that's what her house would feel like if you came in through the one door. Like it knew you pulled up and was waiting at that door for you to come in. Um, I should write my own, but well, thank you. I just know me. I will never finish. I'll get tired of writing it. I love. I admire people that can write stories and books because I wouldn't be able to finish it. I would get bored with my own story and quit. I'm like, I'm done. Um, let's see if anybody's got more question. Yeah, that house and my parents, I think, are only the third owner. I don't know if it's so much as evil as just troublesome. And I think that is the only place I've ever seen shadow people walking around. Um, yeah, her house is a little different. So that's why I said mine was just annoying. Hers was a little more problematic. Um, no, my mom and them are still there. Um, she's still there. And my mom is somebody who loves taking care of all things. And so in her mind, this is a place where they can come and go and she'll just nurture it. And I'm like, stop it, get rid of them. So sometimes while I'm there, I'm kind of energetically cleansing out that like, no, she's got enough on her plate. She doesn't need you to move it. But so she's still there. So that's my mom's house. It was my grandmother's house. And before that, it was the original owner, Mr. Coven, who built that house. The street's named after him. It was pronounced Coven, but I like to call it Coven because it's spelled the same. And I'm like, how funny that the Catholic lady lives on Coven and I don't. Friends of mine who can kind of see stuff have seen things in that house. And they're like, don't you see that thing over there? And I'm like, nope. I ain't got the time for it today anyway. But that's an interesting house. Does a woman become more clairvoyant? I believe it can happen. I don't know if I've read studies on this, but I also like to think when our kids kind of grow up and go and move on and they're functioning adults on their own, a lot of ladies like start coming back into their own then. And I think, because again, hasn't been proven, haven't read the studies. When you take the everyday duties, responsibilities off the table of other people that you got to care for, other things that you got to run, because it's not just cooking and cleaning and laundry for them, right? You've got doctor's appointments, you got school, you've got sports, you've got play dates, you've got the phone ringing, you've got the question, you've got so much. When those children at whatever age finally leave and they're doing their own thing and we're always going to worry about them, that's what we parents do. But when they're out and functioning and they're doing a pretty good job, you're not worried about their every step and their every move. Now you can pay attention to what else is going on. You're noticing those little things. You're picking up on those other things. That intuition, that gut feeling is like, hey, something's not quite right. I'm going to call them. I'm going to go check. You're able to pay attention to it more, and it means more because you have the time to pay attention. You're not brushing it off. It's not something that you're like, oh, I feel, oh, great, the phone's calling, or this is burning, or here's the 500th question in 5 minutes. You can kind of pay attention a little better. When it comes to menopause, I think it's, again, you're becoming a little more aware of your body, right? You're forced to. And depending, some women have easier menopause, some it's, hell on earth. I'm hoping for not quite hell on earth, but so be it whenever that happens. But you're forced to pay attention to you and what's going on with you. So now you're also paying attention what's going on with you, even if it's not quite physically. So it's maybe not a case that you're becoming, you're just paying attention to. It's hard to do when you've got a bunch of kids and other responsibilities. Brooke, a lot of my woo-woo stuff went on supercharged during the pandemic. I was forced to slow down and was able to pay attention. Yep. Right. Nobody was leaving the house. Nobody was going to work. Everything was shut down. Well, guess what? Now you're sitting with yourself and yourself. I have said, and this sounds horrible, the pandemic was one of the greatest things to happen business-wise. Why? Everybody was sitting with themselves. Now they're paying attention. Now they have an interest. Now they have time to investigate these feelings of intuition, these what's going on? What does that mean? Or now you have time to sit and learn to meditate, to tap into things. And or all of those traumatic things that you've been able to avoid or were able to avoid with work, with school, with this, with that. Now you can't. Now you're forced to deal with it. But it's harder to get into a doctor to just get a pill and take care of it. So what are other ways that, people were finding to deal with those things? So when we were actually open and allowed to reopen and we were flooded. And I was like, holy crap, where, yay, but what's going on? What? And so it's been a new great thing. And it's been really fun helping people, figure things out and, how to learn how to do things, how to investigate. There's no one way for anything. There are so many traditions and so many things that you can look into. And again, what works for me may not work for you, may not work for your friend. It's fun delving into that. But the pandemic really opened up for a lot of people's ability to seek other ways. And I think, yeah, they were ready to start healing and start getting into it because work didn't take the precedence. Thanks for joining, City. Hopefully everything's good over there. Sona says, I have a question. My daughter has a thing with closed doors. At night, it makes her feel quite uneasy and shuts the doors, though, if it's open. And you know what? I was kind of like that as a kid. I did not like closet doors being left open. The drawers on dressers, everything had to be shut and tight. Because in my mind, that meant nothing was coming out of there. So, and the one house that we had, actually a couple houses, I remember as a kid, seeing shit on the walls and spent a lot more time standing outside my bedroom door than in bed. But in my mind, if all of those doors were closed, that meant it couldn't come in. So not saying that there could something be, it wouldn't hurt to get Marianne maybe involved. Everybody is witchy woo. Not quite everybody, but a lot more. They're more open-minded, I think, in investigating. I know she sees spirits, but how do I help? You know what? I would recommend, having Marianne involved. And here's a little secret. Hopefully Marianne doesn't shoot me when she sees me later. If you have kids involved, you get moved to the top of her call list. She doesn't tolerate little kids and animals, being picked on by ghosts and whatnot in a house. So, and probably the fastest, easiest way, is one of the Zooms. And the next one that's open is February. We put those dates out. There's only one in January because of her move, and that one's full. But February 10th is the next one. So if you haven't done one, she and I are on there. I'm in the background, just kind of muting, unmuting, checking people off. She's doing all the work as normal. Everybody gets to ask 2 questions and find out what's going on in the house, and she'll tell you what's going on, how to take care of it. If you're local, she can come help take care of that, especially with little kids. If you're not, she'll give you some, advice of what to do, how often to sage, where to do, and get you going that way to help confirm. And because Marianne had, her 2 daughters, one can do what she does, one can't, and they were foster parents. Like, she's got a good head on her shoulders on how to deal with this with kids, which is also the number one reason why when we're doing lives and Zooms and whatnot, she's like, no one under 18. She doesn't want to make the situation worse for what the little one might already be going through. You're in Scotland. Well, you can still come on, still get, it confirmed. She can't come there. I mean, at some point, I'd like to take all of this on the road, but at least get it confirmed and to know. I wish I had a store in Lake County. It's funny. Everybody wants me to put something over on the east side, put something on the east side, and I'm like, I sold my house to be 1.5 miles away from work, and now everybody wants me on the east side. I don't know. Maybe, Marianne, I need you to go run a store for me. And she'd be like, no. So it's been bad. The cases have been rising here locally, but the government is a bit hesitating in shutting everything down. Well, I'm hope you're feeling better, and I'm glad that you recovered. Let us know how you're doing, and stay healthy, stay safe. Keep away from the germs. Let's see. Yeah, we've had quite a few. We've actually had people from was that Ireland who joined us. India Setsuko. I don't know if I've seen her on today. She joins us almost every single time from Japan. So we have some regulars that will pop in. The only thing is, if you do join, please be aware of the time change. So 7:30 Eastern Standard Time is when we get started. So make sure you adjust the time difference so you're on when we're on. Let's see. Everybody stay safe. Sorry, see, I don't have Marianne to talk while I read to make sure I haven't missed anything. What are my thoughts on evil eye jewelry? Should they be cleansed a certain way, if at all? Are there more? You know what? Evil eye jewelry for me tends to me, and this is my personal belief, it is more of your belief attached to the jewelry. So if you think that eye is protecting you, then it is, because you are putting that intent, that prayer, that spell, that whatever you want to call it, into that jewelry. And I say this because it's the bigger thing that I'm wearing. By itself, is it doing it? Probably not. I would say if it was something carved out of an actual protective type of stone, has been blessed or energized by an actual energy worker, is going to be better than buying a plastic piece off of the rack and just throwing it on your wrist. Then again, though, you yourself believe it, so that belief is there. But I know for some people, like, it works, it just is, and it's fine for them. If I were buying it, like, I would do extra work with it to make it be more protective. But I personally don't find the eye by itself, be it in the beads on a bracelet or, a little pendant, by itself. But that's me. Like I said, for other people, it's fine, it's dandy, it's enough, works for them, no problem, and good, works for them. Love the book group. We might get it going again. So feel free to send over book suggestions to the store. I can run them past Marianne, see if we can't tweak it, get her going. Um, do I know if portals will close by themselves if vacant for a certain period of time? I don't think they would. I do think that they would almost like kind of like if you think of an old door, an old house, right? That door, if nobody's using it, it's going to get a little creaky, and but if somebody were to start moving it again, it's going to open easier every single time. So if there's nothing on the outside of that portal for anything coming out to take advantage of, they're not going to use it that often. So will they close? Probably not. Will it get used less? Yeah. Let's see. Let's see. Where are we at? Oh, we're already almost at 11. This is going by pretty quick. And Marianne should be back with us next week. Hopefully, forgot to even ask. The podcast did hit this morning. So if anybody listened to that already, how'd you like it? Found a horn coral stone in the ground here when we had our house built in a cluttered closet somewhere. At least no aliens will drop on us now. Yeah. You know what? That I can't say for certain. So that's one of the things that when Marianne's whirlwind slows down, I kind of want to do some experiments, like because you can get these apparently around the Great Lakes, and I think a few people have gathered them up, and they're just kind of waiting to let us try. But I want to try some Great Lake ones compared to the ones that she's got from Loch Ness and see if they have the same energetic ability. So I can't confirm or deny, but if you feel like you're not having problems, maybe it's working. But I do want to test this and see if the Great Lakes has kind of like similar energy, right? Because Loch Ness has the Loch Ness monster, and there's always rumors and stories about the Great Lakes having its own version of Nessie. So maybe, I don't know. We'll have to try this out. So if you are somebody that's found one around the Great Lakes or in the Great Lake area, and if you're willing to let us try some stuff, set it aside. And when we're ready, we're like, if you've got one, can you drop it off? I want to test some things. Oh, please send energy to my puppy. We sure will. And I hope he's okay. He's okay. Let's see. Does being a goddess mean you can cast more spells than a witch? Have you ever cast a love spell? I don't do love spells for public. I don't curse for public either. The Goddess Elite is the name of the store, not necessarily calling myself I am, but I do believe every female and every male, like we all have our divine God and goddess within us. And if you want to hit that on over to like, we are all God, we're all connected. Sure, do with that what you will. That's one thing that I always like to clear up for some people. Spell casting, witchcraft is a practice. It is not a religion. You do not have to be casting spells every single day to be considered a witch. Spells and prayers are actually really similar. Slightly different name for the intent behind it and what you're doing. Some people do their spell crafting, they're lighting a candle, they're setting their intention, and they're doing that really hard. What do you do in church with your candles? You're lighting the candle and you're praying really hard. There you go. That's how I got you by a love spell. and a Snapchat that was completely not working the way it was supposed to, which is really funny. Can your guardian angels and spirit guides go past the quinseeds? They can, because quinseeds that Marianne offers only affects earthbound spirits. So they can come and go as they need. Anybody that has crossed over can, they don't have to worry about quinseeds. So don't worry that if you have a seed or if you have seeds around your house that your higher beings are not able to help you. Those don't stop them at all. And unfortunately, with Marianne, according to Marianne, your guardian angels, your loved ones crossed over, really can't affect earthbound spirits though either. So, um, grandma that died is not going to be able to kick out, the ghost that's hanging out in your house. Two different vibrations. So, I like to compare for people, because those of us that are old enough and remember radios in cars or boom boxes, you have your dial, and your guides, your angels, the ones that have crossed over are higher up. They're 107.9 versus an earthbound that's your 98.5. So they're on different ends. They're different frequencies. They're different vibrations. They can't really interact. That's why praying it away doesn't always work. Let's see. You'll have to let us know, Melanie, how your puppy's doing. Keep us up to date on your puppy. Well, thank you. Thank you for tolerating my rambling, what I do. Let's see. It would be, right? It would be pretty awesome if guides and angels could kick earthbound butts. I often think I drive mine to drink. Like, why? Why is she doing this now? Why does she think this is a good idea? Yes, and probably different planes of existence. So I wish I could understand more. If I could probably sit in, like, audit some college classes on like quantum entanglement and all of that, and just how that works. Because I'm like, I bet you that's how a lot of the woo-woo is explained, right? Multi-universes brushing up against one another or one inside the other, and that's how they work. So yeah, I think quantum entanglement, the string theory, can maybe explain some of the woo-woo for us through science. Yeah, let us know next week, Melanie, how it's going. And you can always leave it in comments too, like, because I know, like, I go back and check things. So does Marianne. That's how sometimes we remember to talk about something that was at the end of last week. We go back and check for comments. I'm like, oh yeah, we gotta address that today. But Marianne will be back next week. The January Zoom is full. So February 10th is the next one that is open. It seems forever away, but if you want in, go ahead and sign up. It's definitely available. And that's how you're going to find out with Marianne if you've got anything going on in the house. Do you need it confirmed, or if you're pretty sure it's going on, but you want to know what to do about it, come on Zoom. But I hope everybody has a great and safe, happy new year. Thank you, City, and please stay healthy, stay safe, no more getting sick. There is a podcast from like earlier this year, I believe, on New Year's traditions that Marianne and I did. So if you go way back, way back, you can re-listen to that. We won't have one for this time around. Marianne's move just kind of really took over as expected. How do I sign up for Zoom? Here is the link. That link will always work, provided that we are doing Zoom. So hopefully in 5 years, if we're still doing it, that's still going to work. It will automatically bring you to the Zoom that has available openings. If you were hoping for January and it's not showing it to you, it's because it's full. Please keep that in mind. I get so many emails from people like thinking that it's broken and they want me to personally fix it. I cannot. It is full. You will automatically be directed to the one that has room for you to sign up. So that link there, if you go to goddesselite.com and click on events, you will find it there as well. If you go to Marianne's website, it's listed there as well. So there's 3 ways to get to it. Let's see. When Go Speak at or When Go Speak Pod at Gmail is where if you have pictures or videos of what you think might be ghosts, and if you'd like to send them in, you can send them there. When Marianne's move is done, we're going to sit down and go through them and get them loaded up for some live. So if you've been sending them and patiently waiting, they're still there. We've just been so busy, but they're still there and they're saved, I promise. If you want to listen to the podcast that comes out every Wednesday morning at 4 a.m., there's a direct link to the podcast website. Otherwise, you can find it everywhere except Apple. We all know my gripe about Apple with the When Ghosts Speak Pod, but you can find it everywhere else. I think Audible and Spotify, most people have really great listening experiences there, less ads, less trouble finding it. But that's how you listen to the podcast. There's a new episode every Wednesday morning at 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're on the West Coast, it might be way later for you. But that's how you find that. Let's see. There were a lot of cool New Year's tips in that episode, and that's way back there, way at the beginning of the year. Yep. One of the ones in there was the pennies. So take a listen to that podcast, see what you can do with the pennies. I was just thinking, I'm like, I need to redo my rice cups here and at the store. So if you come in and you see that cup of rice, you'll know what it is. But yeah, there's the podcast. Check it out if you haven't. When Marianne gets back, we are going to finish hashing out how we are going to decide who gets to come into the background and watch us record over on, while we record on Twitch. So if you are a Twitch person, when we're going live and recording, you can actually watch that happen. And if you've got some comments here and there that might help spur some of the topics, I'll throw up on the screen and let Marianne answer. I just recorded 2 episodes for the store podcast, Boxed Mind and Witchcraft, with Zach the other night, and a couple people were able to catch that. But if you're over on Twitch, keep an eye on that, and you'll get to see those record happen, and you get to hear all the side conversations and a lot of the stuff that I have to edit out later. But thanks for joining, everybody. Marianne will be back. So we'll be back here next Wednesday, 10 a.m. And we'll be back on to the more ghostly stories, advice, and chats with Marianne. But thanks for joining, everybody. We'll see you next Wednesday.